Hello, I'm Stephen Foskett, and we are here in San Francisco, California for Cloud Field Day. We're at the offices of Scality, and we've invited in a group of independent writers, speakers, podcasters, and so on to learn about their technology, to interact during the presentation, and to ask questions that represent the audience outside. If you'd like to learn more about Tech Field Day, go to techfieldday.com. You can learn how to become a delegate like the folks around the table or a presenter like Scality. If you'd like to see more videos like this, just go to youtube.com/techfieldday.
My name is Yannick Guillaume. I'm a sales engineer here in San Francisco for Scality. And we're going to focus a little bit more onto a specific use case that we cover pretty well, which is the media world. And we'll talk about two specific use cases, workflows in the media space that we do quite well. I'm starting with that image from Amsterdam. I just came back actually from a week in Amsterdam. There was IBC last week, which is a pretty big media show worldwide. There's two actually. One is NAB in Las Vegas, another one is IBC in Amsterdam. Beautiful place. It was sunshine. It was great. So I think a good starting point was to give you maybe a few trends at IBC and what we see out there, what people in the media space do and develop. The first one is bigger, right? I'm pretty sure you heard about 2K, 4K, HD, HD, Ultra HD. Those are different media formats, and the more the 4K, the 8K, the more pixels you have, actually, the better quality. But then the files are becoming very, very big as well in that space. So I gave a few examples here of a 2-hour movie in the different formats, from an SD movie, which is 4 gig, to a 8K, right? And we're seeing 4K, 8K. There was demo actually at IBC of 8K streaming. We're getting to 10 times the size actually for the same content.
Storage was dead.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so we thought it was free.
It's really getting bigger, right? 4K is here. Netflix has started to to stream content in 4K, but we'll see 8K very soon, and we'll see even bigger, 16 and more and more, right? So it's there.
128 gig left. iPad won't even be able to do a 8K movie.
Yeah. The second trend is everywhere, all the time, right? We consume a lot of content on many different devices, and you guys do it. You all have laptops right now, tweeting, doing a lot of stuff, and watching video as well. So my kids typically have at home. They don't even watch TV anymore. I don't even have cable anymore, right? It's all on Netflix. It's all on laptop and YouTube, right? So it's everywhere. It's on demand. You can catch up many programs. You can do time shift, so you can do pause. You missed the beginning of a game. You can rewind and see the game. Over the top, OTT is booming, really. We had visit of a whole bunch of people on the booth at IBC. We had a booth actually there. And from the biggest nationwide provider, I'm not going to give any name, to the smallest local kind of like provider or TV channel, they're all into that, right? And it has to be now, right? They have to be in the game, so it has to happen very, very fast. And the last trend, which is pretty good because we just talked about it, S3 is everywhere. We've seen different things actually in the media space. It's really been a traditional, file-based workflow. We've seen CDMI, and we have a few use cases where we see CDMI, but S3 is everywhere. And we've been working with a bunch of partners in that space for data ingest, transcode, live record packaging and delivery. And there's a bunch of names in here. Even in the MAMs, we see S3 everywhere, right? From the point where the file comes in and all the work you do around the file to the point where it gets out because you finished the packaging or the color correction or the work you were supposed to do on the file, okay? So this is really a big trend. And not only a trend, people use it. All the partners actually now support an S3 API to be able to manipulate the media files. I thought this would be a good slide as well. We all have those slides, right, where we put logos on those. But consider that 2 years ago with Scality, we were kind of like new in that space, in the media space. Kind of like 2 years later, we have a whole bunch of names in there and many different use cases. I'll dig a little bit into that, but this is giving you kind of like a nice, screenshot of, different customers we had in that space, right? And all over. It's in Australia, like Foxtel is one. It's in the US, Technicolor, Deluxe. It's in Europe as well. Dailymotion, that Giorgio mentioned before, was one of the very first media customer we had in that space. To one of the very recent one, Eurosport, which is in France, and Conhem, which is in the Nordics. It's in Sweden, I think. I don't remember exactly where. Okay, and so we'll dig a little bit into what those use cases are and how we support the use cases with the Scality Ring. This is really a traditional, media workflow, right? From the production, you go out, you shoot some stuff, HD, 4K, and 8K very, very soon. You bring it on site to a data center, and you're going to go and start doing some post-production work. You're going to cut, you're going to do color correction, you're going to do, subtitle, you're going to do a lot of things around the media, right? So it's going to come from raw content to working with what they call proxies and mezzanine files, and they're going to do some work, right? And traditionally, this is done on the SAN platform. Then you're going to go to media services. Media services are going to be around package that format for distribution, make it in such a way in a specific format so you can stream it on a laptop, on TV, or many different things. And then we go to the content distribution. Content distribution is going to be where the Netflix out there have a platform where you can actually stream content. And the trend that we see as well right now is people want to see everything in the same platform, right? From live to being able to go back to content on demand. So it's not only going on TV to see some content and going on the laptop to see some other content. It's a kind of like a mixed platform. I heard about a platform called CNN Go, actually, during ABC, which is doing that, right? It's a whole mix of live content and on demand and many different things you can do on the platform. And then the last step is, make money out of it, right? Monetize your content. You're going to offer services to stream that content onto your TV, your laptop, et cetera, right? In that workflow, there's many things that people do in a traditional manner, like they cut on SAN. Whenever the SAN is filling up, they traditionally are going to archive that on NAS or on LTO appliances, on tapes, right? I mean, I've seen actually in the past, places where they have petabytes and petabytes of content on tape sitting on the shelf somewhere. Okay, so SAN traditionally, archive on tape. So this is really one of the major pain points that they have is the transfer time between a tape and the SAN, right? Whenever you need to rework with that content. One of the pain points that they have as well is to control and to manage the capacity on their tier 1 super expensive SAN storage, right? They have two choices basically. More and more content is coming in, bigger and bigger is that content. So either they add capacity onto their tier 1 SAN, or they decide to put it somewhere. The overflow of that content that's coming in, they're going to put it traditionally on tape. And then they spend a lot of time transferring those files around, between the tier 1 and tape, right? And that's going to be one play where we're good at. They're going to be doing some, media services, transcoding, and put it onto an origin platform. So the origin platform is really where that content is going to live before it's distributed to the edge, to some servers, some cache servers that are close to the end users. And this is where there's some pain point as well. This is going to become huge, right? You probably maybe have a setup box at home. All those guys are discussing about getting rid of those and record everything in the cloud, right? All the content, all the different channels that they manage, right? And in some countries, you have regulations where you have to record one copy per user watching the content. So we're talking about massive amount of data here, petabytes and petabytes of data, where traditional NAS solution have some limitations there as well. Above a number of petabytes, you have to create multiple NAS heads to be able to manage that storage. So where we're a fit in that workflow with the Scality Ring? Well, the first one is really where they struggle with the NAS and the tapes, right? So we're going to be a very good fit where behind a SAN, behind a tier 1, right? So you can overflow what's coming in on your SAN onto the Scality Ring, which is an archive. But what we've seen actually is a lot of people not only they decided not to actually ingest that onto their tier 1, but ingest that on the Scality Ring directly, kind of like their parking area. so that they don't have to consume the space on the tier 1. And since we're a disk, based solution, and we're pretty fast, they started to activate some workflows on there. Transcode, ingest from people like Aspera, even do a little bit of cut, a little bit of edit. Right? We're not going to replace the SAN storage with 20 Final Cut stations plugged to it, but we're going to be able to do some editing to some extent. Typically in the news, where they don't do color correction and all those special effects, you could do a bit of work onto the ring, right? So it's changed from becoming a cold archive where content just sits, where they can now activate a whole bunch of different workflows. And when they do that, they control very precisely the content that they need to have on the SAN, right? Spike in production, a lot of content is coming in, parking on the ring, start to create the proxies, the mids and in, and whenever you need that content, then put it on the SAN and work with it.
So from a transfer problem from the Scality to the SAN is relatively quicker because it's not causing
Absolutely.
tape mounts and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. They don't deal with tapes anymore for the nearline, right? I'm not saying we're going to replace tapes everywhere, right? You're still going to see some pretty huge archive, maybe behind the nearline, right? Once it's really cold and you don't need that content anymore, and put it on tape. But even with that, I don't know, you watch a basketball game, all of a sudden the Warriors have become good, 2 years ago. Then they're going to start, bringing a lot of, old stuff, highlights, and, show some stuff on live or on TV. And traditionally, that content has been sitting on tape. And it takes forever, actually, to take it to get it back onto a tier 1 storage where you can cut it and do quick highlights, right? So that's one, very, very good use case for us. Nearline, SAN staging, archive.
So a question then around why people are putting it on SAN or NAS stations to do cut and edit and so on. Mm-hmm. What is it about Scality that isn't suited to that use case? Is it?
Because traditionally, this is really a fiber environment, so very low latency, very, very fast access, fiber access to the station. Because when you're streaming actually and you work on 4K content, it really has to be a super, super fast storage here. And again, I'm not saying we're not going to be able to do it on a bunch of streams, right? But we're not going to be able to scale that and to offer, what is SAN storage.
I think it's a low latency environment. Is that the requirement for the?
Yeah, Flash, and it's usually based on Flash or environments like StorNext that have been designed for that, right? And we don't play in that space. This is not where we position the Scality ring.
Yeah,
really.
that's okay. I'm just trying to understand why, what is the positioning and why I would choose one over the other. Because if I've got some Scality, so well, can't I just talk to the Scality and just leave it where it is, because then I don't have to move it for any other reason?
No, that's true. But again, it's not been designed for that. But again, this is a disk-based, archive with a ring, so it's quite fast to move, that content back to the SAN, work with it, and archive it back to the ring, as opposed to tapes, right?
Can I put Flash on my service because it's disk?
You could,
Wax
and we've
Flash
seen
on the
that actually at a customer environment where they built a full Flash, ring environment. But again, we try to avoid to go in those use cases where we're in the limits of the usage between really the Flash and the ring, and we just decided not to play in that space.
I would think the Flash shouldn't be much improvement because you're pretty much doing large sequential read and write operations.
Right.
If you don't have anything that's randomizing those writes, it's not going to be much faster than spinning.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, so if it's not, then why am I buying a Flash SAN? So it's back to because it's extremely low latency.
Well, and
is the thing.
we're in situations where most of the time they have a SAN already. So we're not going to replace the SAN. They're going to keep their SAN, right?
Yeah.
The issue that they have is to be able to control the capacity of the SAN and the way it grows, right? And they don't want that.
Yeah.
And traditionally, it goes to tape. We replace the tape solution with a much faster solution. We're really in between the long-term archive where they can leave the content on the ring as well, and the super fast, tier 1 SAN.
Yep.
This is really a great fit.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. I look at what storage, the whole storage has mass and it takes time to move it from one place to another. So if I can not move the storage around at all and access it in place, then it's even faster.
It could,
So
but We didn't go in that use
okay,
case.
it's
And you see S3 as being the way it's used to a large extent?
More and more, actually, because it's really a very traditional file-based workflow where it's all file. NFS traditionally with
Right.
all the different transcoders and
Right.
MAMs and everything. But yeah, we see a big trend with S3. With the MAMs, with companies like Aspera, we're certified with Aspera on S3. Companies like Elemental, they do
And so
encoders.
some of those companies, they standardize an S3 and you can just plug in at that
Yeah.
point. Yeah.
There's not much to do, actually. We've been working with Elemental and company like Aspera. And in that situation, the S3 server is a great tool because they can download it, verify that all the functions they're looking for, all the API
yeah.
calls are there, right?
Yeah.
Certify it, and then we can go to a second step, which is more, performance test and all that
PLCs
into
kind
it
of
app.
thing, yeah.
But it's really real quick for them to download, install it, and then start testing and validating the workflow of their application. But yeah, S3 is everywhere in all the different steps of that workflow. Really,
Ah.
right? So the second use case where we're a pretty good fit at is really it's in the content distribution use case where we're going to be the origin server, where your content sits before it's distributed to the edge and onto the end users. So we're going to be between the live ingest when you have multiple HD channels that are going to be recorded on us. That's step one. And then the next step is going to be distribute that to the end users, right? We're not the edge. We're not going to be the different servers and the cache spread, on territories. We're really going to be where the original, content.
Can they do the transcoding on the ring, or is it?
To some extent, yes. And it's kind of like the same as the question you had before. You don't want, 500 transcode to go, at the same time on the ring. But yes, we've seen customers using transcoding, FFmpeg, and products like that to do some transcoding on the ring. Yes.
I guess the question is not using transcoding with the ring, but transcoding on the ring nodes themselves. Can they do that too?
Oh, to have the transcoding installed on the nodes directly? I guess they could. We haven't seen any customers doing that, but that could be a possibility for sure. Yes. And that's where the ring becomes active, right? Instead of being just a dormant archive,
Right.
they started to activate, actions on the ring, right? So nearline / long term, because they could keep it on the ring as well for a while. And the origin, distribution here, where we work with a whole bunch of different partners in that space, software partners, those who do the ingest, the record, and the streaming on the other side. Talking about that, I just put a bunch of slides on the different partners we have in that space. So really those two M&E use cases, the Active Archive and then the content distribution. The Active Archive is really around applications that are going to move the data around between the SAN and the tapes and us typically. So products like ASG or Veritas, Commvault all do kind of like some data movement. We put the MAMs in that category as well. So through a media asset management system, you can drive that. You can drive the data movement as well. You select content, you change a specific status, which is archived to the ring via the S3 protocol, for example. It goes to the ring, and then all the metadata are left in the MAM. But the high res has been archived to the ring. The proxy is going to stay onto the MAM side. This is archive, Active Archive, and in the content distribution space, like I said, dealing with software that are going to do the live channel, HD channel, record onto a storage, and then do the streaming on the other side. And what those people like to do is to use a single format onto the origin storage that they call the Pivo format. And from there, they can create many different formats to stream on Apple with HLS, on smooth streaming, MPEG-Dash, and things like that. So those guys in that space are going to be people like Elemental, Unified Streaming, Broadpeak, and Evia, different vendors in that space. This is just a slide, an extract that I saw at IBC as well from Elemental. We're presenting solutions in our booth, and we're actually kind of like in the middle of it, where they do recording on one side with the Elemental Live, and then they do streaming on the other side with the Elemental Delta. And those guys have an S3 API as well that we started to integrate with the ring. Just another one, Aspera content distribution, where you can create collaborating use cases using Aspera to speed up the transfer of content between their clients onto a storage and between different storage. So here, this is a slide that we created to do a post-production collaboration between two different locations, New York and LA, and they use the FAST protocol, actually the Aspera protocol, to quickly transfer content between the two places to be able to collaborate. Right? We don't have time to spend too much time onto the partner, but just to give you examples of what we can do with those guys. And again, here, S3 is a protocol we use a lot in that space as well. So a few examples of different customers that we have in that space. So the first one is really Origin Server. So Origin Server is us used as the storage where you have all the video content that is aimed to be distributed, right? RTL Interactive in Germany is one of those examples. They leverage the Fuse protocol with us, where they have, it's really a video on demand use case, right? They don't record here live ingest, right? It's just a bunch of new titles that they put onto the Ring for video on demand use case. So they ingest new content, and then on the other side, they have a bunch of different solutions that can grab that content and stream it to the end users. Apache servers, Adobe servers using the Fuse protocol to be able to read content here, and then they're going to cache it at the CDN layer to stream it on at the end user side. That use case is pretty much always the same. Start to play a video, check if the video is actually on the CDN, on the cache. If it's there, you stream directly. If not, you're going to grab it on the Ring and then cache it in here. So that's one example. Another one is, that didn't show up quite well. Another example is Deluxe, who was actually, they were having all their content stored at the edge side. So using, people like Akamai, Limelight, CDN distributors. And then we're seeing some issues, associated to that. Cost control of that, and the possibility to be able to, share that content between multiple different CDN providers. They were kind of like stuck with one only. So they decided to bring all that content back on premise and build their own Origin server based on the Scality Ring. And then be able to distribute that content to multiple different providers. Another example is Dailymotion, which is all built-in in-house applications where you can upload content. You're a user, you want to upload a video onto Dailymotion on one side, and then if you play a video, it's going to come from the Ring as well. So it's all in-house HTTP REST based. So they really built their own application to be able to ingest and stream content. And this is actually not quite true anymore. 15 petabytes. They have more around 23 petabytes right now of content, which is sitting on the Ring. And yet another one, which is very much the same as the RTL, that I showed before. Molotov in France and ETF1 as well. Same use case, right? The Ring is the Origin server. They have some elemental servers in here that are going to record live content, put it on the Scality Ring, and then using a partner, which is Unified Streaming, grab that content through multiple different servers and stream it to the edge, right? This is an example where we did leverage the CDMI protocol, but since then, those guys have been working on HTTP REST and NFS as well. They're very open with the different things that they can put in place. This is really the nearline SAN staging. So this is more the archive use case. A bunch of examples in here as well. Prodigious in France, kind of like advertising company. They do a lot of work around Final Cut, Autodesk machines as well with Flame and Smoke to work on the content. Their use case is to use the Ring as a central repository where all the content is sitting, right? But they're not going to do all the work in here, right? Every time they need to do something with one of those stations, they're going to read it locally to a local storage, work with it, and put it back. Their main issues here was that the platform they had before was, really reaching the limits of the capacity actually they had in place, right? So we developed a Ring in here, which is growing quite fast actually to manage all that content that they work with on different platforms. Yet another one, Technicolor. This is a nice example as well because they have a StorNext SAN in place, and they used us as the archive behind it. And what's nice with the solution is that they have the connector on our side, which is offering a protocol access to the Ring. which is connected in 10 gig onto the ring, and then fiber connected to the StorNext. And they use, a command which is called CBCP, multi-threaded copy command, to be able to move the content from the SAN to us. And they have around a 4 petabyte ring in place today to do that. Since then, they activated a whole bunch of different workflows as well and that's the beauty of it, right? They start with one use case and keep developing different, use cases on the ring as well. Transcode, distribution, ingest. This is another one. This is more on the broadcast side. So this one is a slightly different use case. This is a TV channel in Australia called CBS, and Deluxe is actually behind it for, having put that solution in place. It's really broadcast. You have playout server in here on that side that are going to grab content that you broadcast on TV onto the ring, right? And then they store it here locally for fast access and broadcast. So they record on one side, record the live, put it here on the ring. They do a bit of post-production, right? Again, not crazy 40 Final Cut stations, but a bunch of workstations with Adobe to be able to cut a few things, right? For legal purposes mainly. They do a bit of transcode as well to prepare that content to be ready to go to air. So it comes in, a bit of work, and it goes out via those Synergy servers. HBO, I think it's my last one because I think I'm running out of time. HBO is yet another example, which is a SAN offload onto us. And what was nice with those guys is that we proposed actually a service that scanned the entire content of their SAN in a matter of not even an hour and gave them a report of what was sitting on their SAN, right? What kind of files, how old those files were. And they actually found out that there was around 500 terabytes of content that was sitting there, not doing anything, that people were not accessing anymore. So they decided to offload that on us to be able to free up some space.
Explain the stretched ring. So is it just one ring across two sites? Is it two?
It is two sites, yes. So according to the latency of that, between the two sites, you can stretch. So instead of having all the servers on one location, you can stretch that onto two sites and then have active applications on both sides.
And do you support any native replication between rings? I saw Aspera was in there, but what about?
Right. Well, Aspera is a little bit different. Aspera really comes to moving content between the two sides, but more on the demand, right?
Yeah.
I want that specific folder to be moved on the other side.
Okay.
What we would do with the ring would be more of either a sync replication between the two sides. So whenever content comes in, you chunk and you spread all that content. So it's really sync. Or we could do actually a two-site scenario as well, more of an active-passive scenario where there's one active site and you do a mirror onto it.
And so you support that mirroring natively without any?
Without any specific application.
Okay. And maybe I probably missed this, but your SMB CIF support, is that Samba? Is that what?
It's actually Fuse plus Samba distribution, yes.
Okay.
But it's based on Fuse.
Okay.